Welcome to the Deep Blue Podcast, Season 2 and Episode 2. Today we have our guest with us who is very familiar in the world of the Amazon agency space. We are going to delve into his past, his present, and also a bit of his future, and also pick his brains on what is top of mind across Amazon at this point in time. So I'd like to welcome our guest, Simon Ellicott.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. I see you got the memo on the matching attire.
Well, it's Amazon leadership, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll establish that going forwards. But thanks for joining us.
No, pleasure.
Really great to have you here. And let's just delve straight in.
Okay.
Because obviously the Amazon agency space, it's grown, it's quite congested, but I'm really keen to just understand your career and sort of what led you to where you are today. So you're able to just take us back to the beginning?
Yes, I'm sure. I mean, it's not a very linear path.
Okay.
I started in print advertising, which kind of reflects my age. Then moved into digital advertising. At which point, one of my clients, one of the big outsourcing companies, asked me to become their brand and communications director.
Okay.
So a big shift for me there. It's a role I enjoyed, but I think the yearning for the advertising world came back to me. And one of the opportunities that arose was basically for me to put forward a proposition to build an advertising network for local councils.
Okay.
So leaning on my old experience and the client base I inherited with the new role. And we launched that. It was quite successful. There was a management buyout. I was paid off. I found myself wondering what to do with myself.
Excellent. And then that was the more exciting part for you, just to get to that phase and get to that point?
Well, it was something up until that point I'd been building other people's businesses. So,
right.
And that's where I kind of encountered the Amazon world. I thought, what can I build for myself based on my expertise today, which was marketing, advertising. And so Amazon, this is about 2014, Amazon was becoming a thing, the Wild West back then. So I undertook a couple of courses, looked at my own private label products, as an education piece more than looking for a laptop lifestyle. And that's where it started. That's what went into the Amazon space.
And how did that education piece turn out for you?
It was great. It was really exciting. I found that I probably was less enthused by the product building, but more the ways of working of Amazon. And back then there wasn't really anyone to consult with to learn from.
Okay. And then in terms of, obviously you've got experience there, marketing side, broader e-commerce side as well. So what's kind of led you to specialise just on the Amazon rather than doing broad e-commerce? Well,
I mean, it was the opportunity at the time, and it was a white space. I learned my trade within the kind of 3P environment, but it's a frugal environment, especially within the private label world. I knew as a consultant that's probably not where I was going to make the biggest impact. So I started gravitating towards the bigger clients, the 1P environment, and learning that aspect of the Amazon space.
Okay.
And that's where I kind of I got really excited about it.
So you've got deep experience in the Amazon world. You're working with multiple agencies at the moment in terms of helping them grow their business and also plan for exit as well.
Yes.
In terms of the Amazon world, if someone hasn't been paying attention to that, what do you think are the top things that people should be concerned with or people should be paying attention to?
Well, it's changing quite dramatically. A lot of factors at play. AI, automation are making brands more sort of independent. There are constraints within the profitability, and it's becoming, I think, a much more, let's say, scrutinised area to work in. Long gone are the days where you just throw up every product you've got. I think there has to be some consideration into what you're selling and why and what the profitability is.
And do you think most brands get that right? Most organisations selling on Amazon get it right, get it wrong? Where do you see the biggest challenges?
I don't think most brands know their kind of SKU level economics. To be honest, they're getting better, but historically it's always been quite surprising when I've done work with brands when I sort of reveal that some of the SKUs are actually losing money for every sale. It's been a real eye opener.
Right. Okay. And then you mentioned something around the economics have changed as well. Amazon becoming more of a pay-to-play space. Obviously, costs rising for sellers and vendors. Do you still think Amazon is a viable growth channel for most brands?
It is, but again, you have to be much more professional these days. It has to date been kind of buoyed by the private label, the endemic brands, the Amazon brands that have kind of grown on Amazon because it's a leveling platform really. It allows the smaller brands to compete with the bigger brands, but that's becoming difficult. for the first time in many, many years, that part of the market is contracting. And that's pretty much what was the foundation of most agencies and most most sellers on the platform. So it's the profile of seller is changing, I think,
Okay.
right now.
And then going on to that change, so where do you see the most opportunity for brands on Amazon right now?
Well, I mean, it's still an opportunity, but I think you have to, it's being more considerate with it every SKU you launch, having a strategy. And I think most brands and agencies to that effect don't really do a lot of strategic work. A lot of it's let's test and learn. So, and that's becoming sort of something that brands are no longer willing to accept or can't accept really, because the economics won't allow it.
Yeah, okay. So a lot more focus on sort of the bottom line, what the return's going to be.
Yeah, well,
where it
I
is.
mean, every SKU has to have a role. It might be defensive, it might be for increased market share, but it has to have a specific role so that we can track it and see how it's performing.
Yeah, okay. And then other alternatives have sprung up, right?
Yeah.
You've only got to look at things like Joybuy, Temu, TikTok Shop as alternative platforms for people to perhaps trade on. What's your view? Specifically, if we take TikTok Shop as well for brands that are on Amazon at the moment, looking at the next shiny thing that's across the fence. What's your view on sort of TikTok Shop and how brands approach those platforms?
Well, TikTok, it's kind of got the sub profile that Amazon used to. Amazon used to be the rock star, didn't it? Then the newcomer, and it has a role. It's difficult to quantify really in its role completely. It's more of a discovery channel. Historically, you've had a greater difficulty encouraging marketeers to split budget away from Amazon to TikTok because the ROI is just so unpredictable.
Yeah.
But in saying that, for certain brands, certain niches, it certainly has a role to play.
Yeah. Okay. And do you think there's more opportunity there, more risk to Amazon from emerging players in the market, or do you think Amazon will still maintain its place, still continually grow? What's your view on how the?
Well, I think Amazon will still continue to grow. It has its place, and there'll be other things that pop up around it. I think the lookout really for Amazon is agentic commerce.
Okay.
And nobody quite knows how that's going to manifest yet. But before TikTok Shop, there was a lot of attempts, Facebook Shop and Google Shopping and so forth, all trying to steal that social commerce component.
Yeah.
Until TikTok came along and emerged. Something along those lines will actually occur with agentic as well.
Okay. So, want to move on to talk about brands on Amazon and what it actually takes to win. A lot of brands think that advertising is their biggest problem. Is that a fair reflection? Is that the reality that you see?
Well, no, it's not, and it's a frustration really, because everything on Amazon is symbiotic, and to do anything in isolation probably shows a lack of understanding really, because advertising won't work unless the optimization's there, unless your keywords are indexed and relevance. And if it's not, you're fighting against each other. And it's surprising actually how, having visibility of lots of agencies, how few agencies do this on a regular basis. And we even have the respective teams work together collectively on the keyword research. So definitely an area for improvement.
Okay. And what about brands thinking more globally? Let's say they're within a certain marketplace, let's say the UK, looking to expand into, let's say, Ireland as a marketplace. When should brands be thinking about expanding into additional marketplaces?
Well, I guess we're talking about bigger brands, so I mean the kind of blue chips. But a lot of the problems with these brands is usually internally. Do they have an entity to trade through? Can they reconcile fiscally? Does the finance director happy to kind of with another business entity and the transfer of revenue? They're the real blockers, if I'm honest. There's always an ambition for these brands to trade internationally, but it's usually something internal that stops them.
Okay. And what do you think that thing in your experience is? What is the thing that typically stops them?
Well, it's usually leadership team. Okay. And the leadership teams historically haven't had a lot of Amazon experience, and they come from more traditional kind of e-commerce and bricks and mortar backgrounds. And that's where their mainstay is. And international expansion is usually driven by the Amazon team, if anything. And they don't generally have let's say, a champion in the leadership team.
Yeah. And do you feel that's an opportunity for Amazon agencies to come in, advise, perhaps, set the landscape?
Definitely.
What is possible?
I mean, the problem is they don't know what they don't know at the leadership teams. And I mean, that's, of course, everyone's problem. But without the right advice and understanding, they don't know what decisions to make. And that's when agencies like themselves would step in.
Perfect. And then also things like vendor central, seller central, that debate sort of still exists. What's your current view on how brands should be thinking about which model is ultimately best for them?
Well, as I said at the beginning, I entered this space through the 3P environment, through Seller Central, and that was what I knew best. I gravitated towards the 1P environment because I thought that's where the opportunities were, the bigger brands were. But ultimately, it's dependent on the brand and the product. There's a very vocal groups within LinkedIn and other kind of platforms championing one over the other. Ultimately, it comes down to the commercial breakdown and how costs are built on either platform. 1P is generally better for kind of lower price products with low margins but high volumes. And although they can work on 3P, the FBA fees alone can be quite prohibitive.
Right.
So it's really a brand by brand, product by product.
So Simon, plenty of experience within the Amazon space, within the e-commerce space as well. Obviously, you've decided to go now and you're working exclusively with Amazon agencies.
Yeah.
So talk us through that. What made you focus there rather than perhaps going directly to brands and helping them with the e-commerce strategies, etc.? Why the agency focus?
Well, it was a necessity, partly. I found myself in the market. I just left one of the other agencies I'd been in a leadership team for about 18 months. They had a short-term commercial challenge, which they've recovered from now, but I found myself in the market and I needed some revenue. And it occurred to me that where I had greatest value is helping agencies, smaller agencies, understand where to help some previous agency go from a team of 0, team of 4, through to a team of 40, going from startup to scale up. The agency space is so hot right now that, especially in terms of M&A, that I'm now getting pulled into, which I wasn't expecting, but pulled into more mature agencies to do capability and get them ready for sale. So it's been a pretty organic journey. I didn't have a plan, but it's an exciting space to be in.
Yeah. And what's the most rewarding part of that journey? Is it working with the early stage agencies on their growth strategy? Is it working on the exit for these people through M&A? What excites you the most?
It's a bit of everything, really. And because there's such a broad spectrum of agencies I work with, from the startup to those getting ready for sale, everyone's on a different point of the journey. But being able to help them through that part of the journey, but not as a kind of a boilerplate replica of something else we've done, but given the options, help them understand what's actually happening out there in the market, how people are pricing, what the scope of work is, how they're winning business. It gives them real clarity and the confidence to kind of move forward as their own business.
Yeah. And on the pricing front, actually, it's something I just wanted to sort of pick up on. So in terms of Amazon agencies, the market rate can fluctuate massively from agency to agency. So, from a couple of £100 to a couple of £1,000 plus every month. Ultimately, people are grouping the Amazon agency offerings roughly sort of the same thing to the end client. But what do you think is actually going on there? What's the difference in terms of how agencies are pricing and how they're going to market?
Well, I mean, every time an agency loses a bid, they'll assume it's down to price.
Okay.
And they'll assume that their offer was exactly the same as the competitors. In reality, that's very rarely the case. I'm quite privileged in as much as I get exposed to lots of different agencies, lots of different ways of working, lots of different service offerings, and can categorically say that not one agency I've encountered is the same as another. All have different offerings. Some have operational capabilities, some have 1P capabilities. And depending on what the brands are looking to acquire, influences the price they can apply. So it can rate the spectrum from £500 for a small freelancer helping a small challenger brand, up to £5,000 plus for big blue chips. I mean, there are some agency retainers of £500,000 a year servicing just big clients, but not all agencies can accommodate those accounts, and it may require a team of 4 or 5, which certain agencies aren't set up to service. So it's really folks figuring out who the ICP is and how you best serve them.
Yeah. And you mentioned that obviously typically the reason why people think they might lose an opportunity is price, right? But the reality might not be that. In your opinion and from what you've seen, what would the typical reason be why people, or is there no particular reason?
I mean, the reason could be so varied. I mean, a 1P account might need some support on AVNs, or to better understand their JBP, or to understand why they are under so much scrutiny from Amazon and so many requests coming through, or to explain to their leadership team why the P&L differs from the bank account. So, I say, in each instance, the kind of requirements are slightly different, and it requires the agencies to listen before they pitch their full service.
Yeah.
Because I say every requirement is slightly different. As much as we'd like them all to be standardised, everyone wants something slightly different.
Yeah, of course. And related to that question, so if a brand is evaluating an offering from an Amazon agency, what are the top things that they should be considering, do you think?
Well, right now, I think there's some, increasingly what I'm seeing from brands is more strategic support, better understanding what actions need to be taken, what actions don't need to be taken. That's just as important. The kind of era of just scattergun, let's optimize everything is behind us now.
Yeah.
Brands need to know that every penny invested is toward a given strategy and a given outcome. And increasingly, that's what they're asking for. And it's the agencies that can evolve and are evolving to those requirements that are going to sort of profit from the changing landscape.
And talking about agency, Simon, so what's your steer, what's your opinion on agencies that have former Amazon employees working for them versus those that don't?
I think former employees add a lot of value. They haven't always worked, if I'm honest. Specifically, I think agencies exclusively from Amazon experience have struggled somewhat, especially with them being integrated into larger entities. But there's always a value to understanding, especially from the 1P side, I think, why Amazon are doing the things they do. Why are they making the requests of you? Why are they increasing their fees? Why are they crapping out certain products? And without that understanding, you wouldn't know what actions to take. So there is a real benefit. I think there were some real kind of superstars that really emerged from the Amazon space. Some have done really well, and some added lots of value to the sector. Yeah. Not all have, but I think it's improving.
So, Simon, you mentioned at the top of the podcast sort of AI being one of the key factors sort of changing the landscape in terms of how businesses are operating and also how agencies are operating as well.
Sure.
In terms of the AI piece and how brands operate on Amazon, where do you think it's really useful and where do you think it's potentially like oversold?
Well, I mean, it's quite contentious in the market right now. A lot of agencies would say it's not really fit for purpose yet. But nevertheless, they are the same agencies who are shouting quite loudly about all the efficiencies they're making in service delivery. So I think a lot of the benefits now are more admin task-based as opposed to kind of just deploying AI independently. It is causing a bit of a shift in kind of what agencies sell and what brands are wanting to purchase. Increasingly, that has driven a kind of move away from execution-based delivery. The assumption from brands really is that basically with automation, with AI and Amazon self-serve, a lot of this stuff is pretty easy to do now. So the value of that is decreasing, which is why I think there's much greater value placed on the strategy, consultancy, larger objective kind of activity that's emerging from agencies.
And do you think, in the opinion of a brand that's looking for an agency, do you think AI should be one of the top considerations that they're asking their agency? Like, are they using it? How are they evaluating it? How is it integrated in part of their processes?
I think AI is going to be part, or should be part of any Amazon agency's offering these days. If not, there's a bit of a red flag. I think probably too many agencies have emblazoned their collateral with AI augmented or amplified, whatever it might be. The question to be asking is, what does that actually mean? And how will that change over time?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And then with all the developments going on, obviously AI being one of the most major, or the largest shifts we've seen in a long period of time. But 3 to 5 years out, Amazon on its evolution journey, where would you predict that Amazon's going to, how would you predict that Amazon's going to evolve during that time?
Well, obviously it's putting a lot of investment in its own AI capabilities. Performance is going to be a lot more greater oriented to that than traditional search. So that's going to be a shift. And a lot more things are going to be automated, which just means that the role between agencies and brands is probably going to evolve. Moving away, I say, from the more execution-based activity to kind of to maybe a bit more upstream, where they can add more value and share what they've learned through the collaborative efforts of being in an agency with lots of specialists that they can learn from collectively, which brands wouldn't have.
So Simon, Elevate, where do you see the business going within the next 3 years for you?
I wish I knew. Is the kind of short answer. I say it was launched out of necessity. I didn't have a plan, but the plan I didn't have is overperforming in many ways. I've been fortuitous in as much that I've entered a space where lots of agency owners are scratching their head. They don't know how the market's evolving. And with my ability to kind of understand different agencies, different ways of working, how other agencies are succeeding, I'm able to bring a lot of clarity and confidence to agencies, so that's been beneficial. It will, of course, keep evolving. I'd say the M&A aspect of the industry is heating up, so there'll be a lot more consolidation. I said there's a lot of agencies in the space right now who are exploring exits because they are uncertain of how the market's evolving. Unfortunately, there's a lot of agencies of very similar profile type revenue. So there's a lot of selection for the buyers in the market, so they're not getting the multiples they were expecting.
Okay. And then personally for you, what would success look like?
Oh, success to me would be just continuing this journey, really, working with as many agency partners as possible. Perhaps, I mean, I'm currently a team of one, which with the evolution of AI, I wouldn't have expected to be able to do what I'm doing right now, but it is making this possible. But I'd like to build a team, and maybe to bring on board some other ex-Amazon agency pros and some from the leadership team, some owners, and see how we can build this.
Excellent. And if you look back throughout your career, right, it's been really varied considering sort of where you are now, where you started, etc. What's the hardest professional lesson you think you've learned during that time?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I haven't got an answer to that.
No standout thing. Or maybe we could flip that then. Maybe we could say, if you look back over your career and the advice that you've been given, is there a single piece of advice that really stands out, do you think?
Only as much that there's always an opportunity out there. I mean, I've been made redundant twice. I've found myself in the markets by surprise, quite sort of short notice. But there's always an opportunity. There's always a reason to keep going. And I mean, develop your network, develop your expertise, and there's always value.
Perfect. Good answer.
Okay.
And then finally, if people want to find you, want to know more, want to contact you, where's the best place?
Well, currently, website's under development. So the only place to find me is on LinkedIn, which I think you'd appreciate.
Oh, I do indeed. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll pop a little link out to Simon's LinkedIn profile in the podcast as well. But all that's left to say is thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love the insights. Love the sharing. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate that.
So that was episode 2, season 2 of the Deep Blue podcast with Simon Ellicott. As mentioned, we will put a link to his LinkedIn profile in the description below. So don't forget to connect with him if you'd like to engage or have a conversation. Thanks very much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.